Welcome to this online mock lecture, and I guess we have to start now. So who am I? I'm Dr. Henry Ng, and I am a lecturer at the Department of Psychology at HKU, and I've been teaching in this department for more than 6 years, I guess. I guess this is my 6 years, okay, here. But adding that, I also did my PhD here, so I've been here for quite a long time. So yeah, of course, today's objective is to actually have a taste of what a psychology class is like, or to the very least, so what is psychology like and what is psychology about? So I hope this online medium is not going to be the barrier, okay, that bars you from understanding, okay, this interesting subject. Right, so today I'm going to talk about a very important fundamental concept in psychology, which is the distinction between perception and reality. You may have heard of the saying that perception is reality, so which has a lot of implications. That means that everyone has his or her own perception, right? And because of this premise, everyone has his or her own reality as well. And therefore, there is no true single objective reality out there because everyone sees a subjective, unique perception by themselves. So yeah, this is a very important concept because psychology, unlike natural sciences such as physics, chemistry, psychologists study subjective experiences of people. Of course, sometimes we have objective indicators of psychological statuses and behavior. But what makes psychology unique, I think, is that we use a scientific method to study this subjective reality of people. And therefore, I think this is a very good introduction as to what psychology is about. So here I will have some demonstrations with you showing how different people hold a different reality in them and how psychologists study these experiences. So first of all, talking about perception, maybe it is most instructive and useful to use vision as an example because, yeah, vision is a very important part in the human senses, right? So here, I need to mention two processes, okay? How do we see things, okay? There is a first process called sensation or transduction, which is the process when outside physical stimulus is transferred into signals that can be interpreted by our body, that can be interpreted by our brain. Okay. So when it comes to vision, do you know the physical energy or the physical stimulus that is relevant here? What kind of energy makes us see? If you're comfortable, you can shout out in front of the screen. Right, so the physical energy responsible for vision, of course, is light. Right, so here there's a candle, right? And remember, this candle is a three-dimensional object. Okay, it has three dimensions. It's a height, it has width, it has length as well. Okay, so it is a three-dimensional object. And how do we see this candle? We see it as light falls onto this candle and then it is reflected, okay? So it is the reflected light that enters into our eyeball, okay? Of course, you know what an eyeball is, right? It is very round, okay? And every man has it, right? And through the lens, okay, the light would be transmitted, okay? Inverted and forms an inverted two-dimensional image at the back of our eye called the retina. And of course, if you're short-sighted, you, like me, okay, you notice that sometimes you need glasses to see things because the lens is not moving that way anymore, cannot focus the image on retina that well anymore, and therefore we need lenses to help us, form a sharp image on the retina. But that's another story. So this eyeball, okay, it looks like a bald man's head, right? It's very important for this visual sense, okay? And I want you to notice one very important thing here, okay? Here it is the physical energy that activates the visual sensory cells, okay, at the back of the eye called the retina, okay? And as these cells are activated, they produce neural signals, which are basically electrical signals, okay? And these electrical signals will be transmitting, okay, through these optical nerves and reach our brain. And it is our brain that reads, okay, these signals, so that we know that, hey, this is a candle. So this is one important thing, how the transduction process happens. The second important thing I want to show you here is that this candle is a three-dimensional object, okay? But, and this is upright. But the image formed at the back of our eye is a two-dimensional image. This is very important. A two-dimensional image, which is also inverted, okay? And you should note that we do not see the candle as two-dimensional. We do not see the candle as inverted. But instead, because our brain is so clever, it's so smart that it would transform the two-dimensional inverted image back into a representation of a three-dimensional image, so that we see the candle as a physical three-dimensional thing rather than a two-dimensional image as it's projected onto our retinas. So first of all, what do you see in this picture? I guess I can use some poll here. What do you see? Whoops. We actually do not have that. Okay. Anyway. So what do you see here? You may say you see a rat. Okay. Someone just chatted, right? A mouse. Okay. Who else sees something else? Of course, this is a mouse, right? You can see the ears, the tail here. But I bet some of you also see an old man, okay, wearing a pair of glasses right here. And the nose of the mouse, the head of the mouse now becomes the nose of the man, okay? And this is the ear, which is the hind leg of the mouse as well, okay? This is a very good example showing how perception can be different across people. Okay? Maybe some of you keep rats or rodents, okay, or chipmunks at your home, and you're more familiar with rat or mouse-like creatures, okay? Or you have just seen a rat running in front of you. I don't know, okay, but that can be possible. And given that information, your brain can be somehow activated to prepare to perceive a rat in an ambiguous figure like this. And therefore, some of you are more prone to see a rat or a mouse. Whereas some of you who may be more prone to or more prepared to see an old man, maybe there is just one sitting next to you, maybe there's one just sitting in front of you right now, okay, which is me, then you are more probable to see an old man, okay? And this is why certain perception is so interesting, because you cannot derive the perceived meaning just from a figure like this. You cannot derive that, hey, different people can have different interpretations of the same figure by just studying the structure of the eye, by just studying how light is transduced into neural signals. In order to know what people do understand this, we need to understand how perception happens. And this is what psychologists do. We do not just study how eyes receive light. We do not just study how visual cells change light into neural signals, but what we care more about is the perceived experience, how we perceive things. And a lot of it has to do with the brain. What about this? What do you see here? Well, if you read the figure from the left to the right, okay, you will see A, okay, and C. So in between, it has to be a B, right? Okay. But if you're reading it from the top to the bottom, okay, it starts with 12 and ends with 14. And if you read it this way, most probably you'll be reading 13 in the middle of this figure. So this is another important illustration of the difference between sensation and perception, okay? And it is a top-down process. I mean, there is a bottom-up process involved. A bottom-up process means that, hey, we form our experience based on primitive information coming from the outside, okay? We actually build up a perceptual experience based on the materials we have received from the physical world. But at the same time, our brain is also working top-down, meaning that what is already in our brain would divert how we are going to perceive the stimulus. So here again, the projected image from here is this figure looking like a B or a 13, okay? But how we are going to interpret it depends on our brain's understanding, past learning experience of alphabets and numbers, okay? If you do not know numbers, then you may just see it as some random shapes, okay? But because you know numbers, okay, as you read from top to the bottom, you will see 13. And also because you know English letters, when you read from the left to the right, you will see A, B, and C. Okay? So this is a top-down process driven by our brain, okay? How about this one? So here I want you to do a little poll. What color do you see? Okay. Do you see gold and white or black and blue? We have seen this dress some years ago, right? Can you see the results? All right. So 75% of you said black and blue. Me, I saw gold and white. I'm still seeing gold and white. Okay. I have always seen gold and white. Okay. And again, this is another demonstration of how perception and sensation collide and disagree with each other. Okay. And many psychologists have, not just psychologists, but also physicians and other neuroscientists have raised a lot of explanations for why people seeing the same image will come up with a different conclusion. Okay. One of the possible reasons is that because of aging. Okay. So usually older people tend to see it as gold and white. So if you just chose gold and white, yeah, maybe your eyes are aging, okay, at a rate faster than you expect. You're welcome, okay. But there are also some other reasons, such as some top-down processing, which is whether or not you expect this dress is a night dress or a daytime party dress, okay. So that will also matter a bit according to the theory. Yeah, so this is just another demonstration of the interesting difference between sensation and perception, how different they can be. Or how about this one? What do you think about this picture? A rather ordinary one, right? Think about what you see here. And think about what you are actually looking at this moment. Right, so yeah, you see 5 men hiking, right? And they're kind of in a line, okay? And consider what you are looking at, okay? What you are looking at right now is a 2-dimensional screen, a flat screen, okay? Projecting some images onto your retina, which also forms a 2-dimensional image, a flat image, okay? And And if you think that way, if you actually look that way, literally, then probably your conclusion would be that, hey, there is a midget right here. There is a giant right here. And this is true. I'm going to show you how. If I crop this person from here to there, you see that this person is actually very short, okay, just like a midget. And this one is really tall, and this guy is even taller, okay? Right, so go back to our eyeball. Yeah, the image the image of the first person, okay, projected on the eye is smaller than the person projected on the second person projected onto our retina, okay? But we do not come up with this conclusion. We would not conclude that, hey, this is a midget and this is a giant. No, we don't. But instead, we have chosen another interpretation of this figure. Our interpretation would be that this person is not a midget, but just that this person is farther away from where we are standing in this picture, and therefore they look smaller. That is, in perceiving things, we have developed a preference for perceiving depth information, a preference for perceiving distance, rather than perceiving size. This is actually very useful for our ancestors whose life have always been haunted by strong predators. Okay, if you see out there, okay, there is a small image of a lion. Okay, you would say, "Hey, that's a small lion. I'm not afraid of it." And then as it runs towards you, you would say, "Hey, how is this lion becoming bigger?" Okay, it's just becoming bigger. It's not coming close to me because my vision does not involve depth. Okay, my vision does not really care about distances or depth. And then you will die. Okay, because the lion will just run up to you and eat you. Okay. No, in the evolution course, we have not chosen to interpret two-dimensional images this way, but instead we try to read three-dimensional information from two-dimensional images, and we are so good at it. Okay, and here we have chosen to interpret depth rather than size. So some important concepts here, okay, which is good to summarize here. Okay, first, our perception consists of two parts, two processes. Okay, the first one is the bottomer process. Of course, in order to see, you have to have the receptor for seeing. Okay, you have to have eyes, functional eyes with retina with sensory cells that are responsive to light, so that, okay, we have materials to build on, okay, to form a visual perception. But remember, that is not enough. Believe it or not, when the optic nerves of your eyes are collected, okay, at the back of your eyeball, okay, the first place they would reach, I mean the optic nerve, the first place that the optic nerves would reach is the back of your brain, okay, called the occipital lobe. And it is here where the neural signals undergo basic processing. It is here where the brain, oops, I just activated my Siri, I don't know why, okay. So it is here, okay, the pink part in this picture that begins to figure out, hey, what you are seeing right now. But it remains quite primitive, okay? It remains to be like lines, orientations, shapes, and so on and so forth. And after this primary processing, the signals will travel to other visual areas, okay, for further processing, such as the temporal lobe, which is green here, okay, for object recognition. Okay, so hey, is that a kettle or a basketball? Okay, so it is here where the object recognition part is happening. As I said, the previous examples have illustrated a very important point, which is even if people are shown the same picture, they can still end up with very different conclusions. Okay? And this is where the top-down process is important. It helps explain why people see different things, even though they're looking at the same thing, okay? Such as contextual information. Some of you may have seen the old man, some of you may saw the rat. Some of you we can see 13 or B, depending on the orientation and the sequence of our reading in the previous example. And also remember, our brain helps us interpret 3D information from a 2D picture, which is very powerful, okay? And in the history of psychology, there is this school called the Gestalt principles, the Gestalt school of psychology, which sums this up very well, okay? So our perception does not always provide us with the most accurate experience. It is not the most accurate experience, but instead, it provides us with the most effective experience. What does it mean by effective? For example, here are some Gestalt principles being demonstrated here. For the first one, what do you see? Of course, you can see you are seeing 20 circles, right, with alternating colors. Fine, okay, definitely fine, okay. But a more effective perception is that, hey, I see 4 lines of circles. Okay. 1 line of it is blue, the other one is black, and then alternates back to blue and alternates back to black. Our brain is so clever, okay? Our brain is so smart that it helps us organize information instantaneously as we see pattern in it, okay? Here, of course, you can say you see 6 lines, right? But yeah, a more effective way is that you see 3 pairs of lines, okay? Continuity, yeah, you can say you see 4 chunks of independent dots, okay? But a better way is that you fill in the gap so that in our 4 segments of lines, you see 2 lines, okay? Linking, crossing each other. Enclosure, okay? We love to do that, right? Why is it the case? Because it's just easier to label things like this. Here, you may say this is a circle, and this is a square, or a circle with 2 openings, and a square with 1 opening. You don't say, hey, there are 2 lines, okay? One is a upside down U, okay, and another one is another U, and they are facing each other, okay? That will be very ineffective in describing or understanding a shape like this. Okay? So this is a very smart part in our brain to make complicated patterns interpretable, to make them easy to process and understand. So what I have taught about so far is more related to your sensory and perceptual experience. How about the human mind? Well, the human mind actually still works very much in this way. Our mind provides us with an effective reality rather than the most accurate reality. And believe it or not, other than a psychologist, I'm also a magician. So I'm going to play magic with you. Okay, so here there are 6 cards, right? I want you to choose 1 card, okay, and keep it in mind, okay? Keep in mind what your card is. I've done that. It's easy done, right? So remember this card in your brain, okay? Because on the count of 3, I'm going to make your card disappear. 1, 2, and 3. And boom, your card is non-existent now, okay? Any hand clapping, okay? Good job, right? So, explanations, guys, any ideas? You can type it in the chat box if you want, okay? Of course, I did not lie, okay? I said I'm a magician, but I did not say that I am a successful magician, okay? Yeah, a number of you have already said, okay, in the chat box, like, hey, all the cards have been changed, okay? The 2 decks of cards are totally different, okay? But in case, okay, some of you are still puzzling, yeah, The two depths of cards are totally different, but as a gist, okay, we tend to think, yeah, there are some cards, right? Some are black, some are red, okay? Some are 9, some are 8, some are 7, okay? And this is a very general impression we have over these cards. Usually, unless you like to pay attention to every single detail a lot, okay? Like people with, some people with autistic spectrum disorders, or otherwise, chances are that you would only form a impression of what the cards are like. Okay, you form a gist of this information rather than remembering every single details, okay, of the information. And because I just asked you to remember the card you have picked, okay, you're just paying attention to that one. Why is it the case? Okay, because this is just more effective in the world. In the world, we are being bombarded constantly by a lot of information, a lot of which is irrelevant to us. And our attention span is very limited. Okay? We just can't spare our attention to every single details in the world. Okay? You will be overwhelmed. Okay? You cannot stand a minute in under such a status. And therefore, we're being very selective here. Okay? And it is this selected part that forms our conscious experience. And a lot of the other experiences, we just let them dive into the sea of the unconscious. So this is a rather famous depiction of the unconscious, the iceberg theory proposed by Sigmund Freud. Of course, he was one of the first person who proposed the importance of the unconscious, that there are things that you are not aware of, but somehow can still affect your action, okay? We're still doing unconscious, we're still studying the unconscious, although the modern research, okay, has deviated a lot from the original proposal of Freud. But yeah, there are lots of information in the current moment that we are just not paying attention to, okay? Because we can overwhelm our limited attention resources. Here comes another test for you, okay? Do you know the board game Monopoly? The board game Monopoly. And on that cover, there is a man. There's an old man, okay? Here's a name. Usually he's referred to as the Monopoly Man. His real name is Rich Uncle Pennybags. And here I want you to decide, okay, so does this old man wear a monocle, okay, a half glasses, okay, just like this one? Does he wear a monocle? I'm going to let you choose. Yes or no? All right, you have 10 seconds. Okay, let's see. 65% of you said yes, he wears a 65% of you said yes, he wears a monocle. 33% of you said no, he doesn't. So which side is correct? He doesn't, okay? He doesn't wear a monocle, okay? So a lot of you, more than half of you, okay, failed in this item. And this is a very interesting phenomenon, okay? Considering the fact that this is quite a popular figure, okay, a famous figure. Well, maybe not popular or famous, but at least we have all seen, okay, this person, okay, somewhere in Toys R Us or in playing board games. So we have definitely seen this figure before. But yeah, as I said, we just cannot pay attention to every single detail. We just form a gist, of what this old man is like in general, but we do not remember every single detail. And the human memory and the human mind is just so easily tricked, okay, by a specific question like this. Well, there are some other people who proposed another fancy explanation of that. They may say, yeah, there are multiple universes, okay. The Rachel Company best that I saw is from universe A1B630, okay? And you are now in a different universe where the Monopoly Man does not wear a monocle. Of course, that's a theory, okay? You can raise any theory as you like. But as a psychologist, okay, we have a simpler explanation. People's memories are just not that good, okay? We just do not pay attention to every single details, and therefore we always have false memories like this. How about this one? Okay, I know the reason why we're having this online session is of a face-to-face session is that we are undergoing a pandemic right now. Here is a scenario that you may relate to. Okay? There is a new flu epidemic. Come on, cut us a break. Another new epidemic in a small village with 600 people, and you oversee the vaccination program. So here are two vaccines, okay, health minister. If vaccine A is adopted, 200 people will be saved for sure. If vaccine B is adopted, then there is a 1/3 of chance that all 600 people will be saved, and 2/3 of a chance that no one will be saved. So I want to hear your voice, okay? Which vaccine, A or B, will you choose? All right, 5 more seconds. All right, the result is very obvious. A lot of you would pick vaccine A in this scenario to vaccine B. Okay? And this result is actually very consistent with what has been found in previous research. Okay, I will explain more later, but here I want to show you another scenario. How about this one? Okay, we're having the same flu epidemic, and you're still the health minister, okay, and you're still dealing with the same traffic. Here you have two choices, okay? And these two choices are not related to the first two choices at all. So this is a totally new epidemic. So if you choose vaccine C, then 400 people will die. If you choose vaccine D, then there is a chance of 1/3 of chance that no one will die. And there will be 2/3 of chance that all 600 people will die. So in this scenario, which vaccine will you choose? Vaccine C or vaccine D? Let's do the polling again, shall we? Did you see my choices just then?
No.
Right. So because I was sharing the results, right? So I will show it once. I suppose you are seeing my screen right now, right? So it is the same scenario, but if vaccine C is used, then 400 people will die. But if vaccine D is used, then 1/3 of chance that no one will die, and 2/3 of a chance that all 600 people will die. So which one will you choose here? Someone just did graffiti on my slides. All right, I guess that's it. Well, of course, by no means this is a well-controlled section because you have seen both scenarios, and probably some of you have already seen the similarities between these four choices. But I am impressed that we still see an interpretable trend here, that in this scenario 2, more of you actually would choose vaccine D. 67% of you would choose vaccine D versus 33% of you who chose vaccine C. So what is the big deal with these two scenarios? Well, if you consider them, compare them side by side, you would notice that actually vaccine A and vaccine C are the same. Okay. But just that vaccine C focuses on how many people will be saved, and vaccine C focuses on how many people will die. And given that there are 600 people, if 400 people are going to die, that means 200 people are going to be saved. If 200 people are going to be saved, that means that 400 people are going to be to die. Okay, and vaccine B, when compared to vaccine D, they are also talking about the same thing, but just that one focuses on dying and the other one focuses on saving. Okay, and when you compare vaccine A and vaccine B, they statistically can be very similar. Okay, because if you're considering 1/3 of a chance that all people will save, if you multiply them together, statistics guys, okay, you'll get 200 people saved. Okay, probabilistically. Okay, and therefore vaccine B and A are basically the same. Okay, and vaccine C or D are also basically the same. The only difference between A and B and between C and D is that vaccine A and C are a certain option. Okay, they are very certain. Okay, how many people will die? How many people will be saved? Okay, so they give you a very certain information. But for vaccine B and vaccine D, they give you an uncertainty. Okay, and what we have just witnessed, okay, is a theory called the prospect theory, that won the behavioral economist and also a psychologist, Chomsky and Kahneman, a Nobel Prize. Okay? So they were the only psychologists who won a Nobel Prize, as long as I can remember. Okay, in economics. Okay. What is the lesson of the prospect theory? It is the power of framing. Okay, if we are focusing on a gain frame, saving people, earning money, making money, people will actually become risk averse. Okay. We want to avoid risk, and therefore most people would choose a more conservative, a more certain option. Okay, this is actually very true in stock market investment. Like usually people who are making money in the market, okay, they would be afraid of, hey, what if the market turns down and I lose money again? And they would tend to immaturely sell all their winning stocks. Okay. But whereas in the loss frame scenario, when we are focusing on loss information, okay, people will actually become more risk-taking. Okay? And therefore, in this scenario, most people will choose vaccine D rather than vaccine C. Okay? And it is also true in the stock market. Like when people are losing money, okay, they would tell, hey, I have already lost $100,000. So it doesn't matter, okay? And the price is so low now. So I'm going to buy more so that later on I can balance out my loss. Okay? So people tend to be more risk-taking as they lose money, which is very counterintuitive. This is something that traditional economic theories cannot explain. Okay, traditional economic theories tend to think people as calculators, computers. Okay, but here it is the human factor that makes things so unpredictable and interesting. So to summarize, the human mind is reactive. Okay. It is also flexible. It can read different scenarios and produce different results. It is also effective. Okay. It gives us an effective reality, but it is not necessarily accurate, nor is it necessarily rational. Okay. The joy of gaining $40 is smaller than the pain of losing $40. Okay, so this is what the prospect theory tells us. Okay, right. So in case you're wondering, hey, what am I going to study if I choose psychology as my major? I think this is a very good part in HKU, which is you do not need to declare your major right away. Okay, not like in Chinese, you have to declare, hey, I'm going to study psychology. So in HKU, you can just say, yeah, I can study different subjects, and they decide if I want to study psychology as my major. But some interesting questions that may interest you right here is, say, yeah, we know psychological disorders, right? What are the biological basis of psychological disorders, okay? If we know the biological basis, then we can cure these disorders using medicine. What about how do people benefit psychologically from the natural environment? Okay, so people will actually become more pro-social. They can also recover faster from a surgery when they can see the natural environment more often. Third, how many personality dimensions are there? Okay, this is another very important question we ask here. How do we define personality? Okay, do we have a common language for personalities of different people? The fourth one, how much do nature and nurture factors contribute to child development? This is a very big question, okay? Some would say it really depends on first, okay? What kind of development you are talking about. But of course, for nature factors, we may say genetics, we may say heredity, and for nurture factors, we may say education level, we may say social network, we may say neighborhood, we may also say the culture, and also the policies that support child development. And better yet, does exposure to violent TV games lead to aggression? So yes, psychology is a hub science, and we encompasses a lot of things. Okay? We study a lot of different questions, and these 5 are just a tiny part of them. Okay? We study many other very interesting questions. And in studying this, we involve a lot of different other subjects as well. Okay, we can relate to, say, computer sciences. When it comes to artificial intelligence, cognitive psychologists actually have a lot of ideas in how to train a machine to recognize faces. Okay, because we don't know that much about machines, but we know how the human mind recognizes objects. So we can draw similarities there and develop better AIs. Okay? Or neuroscientists or neuropsychologists. Okay? We study how, like, what the biological basis of disorders. Okay? So this is what we can do. And if you want to study, or if you're considering to study psychology and you are not sure if you're suitable, remember, yeah, nowadays we are taking a scientific approach in studying psychology. Okay, the traditional approaches like psychoanalysis, okay, or yeah, those things that you may have heard of in pop culture, they are still being practiced. Okay, they're still very effective. Okay, but we are turning from that side of psychology to a more scientific study. We focus on like how to scientifically support or reject a hypothesis. And in doing that, statistical thinking is rather important. Okay, so therefore, in this program, you also learn some statistics, okay, how to draw inferences. Okay. So this is just to prepare you that, hey, this is what we are also expecting. I'm not saying that, hey, I do not understand statistics and therefore I should not choose psychology. No, I do not mean that. We have sufficient training for you to get those knowledge. But yeah, we are not about reading minds. Okay, we are not about how to know a person's favorite color by looking at what kind of shoes she wears. Okay? No, we are not doing that kind of things. Okay? But yeah, we do try to understand the human mind using this statistical thinking. Okay? And as a psychologist, I think one very good thing I have had from this subject is that I learned to think ecologically, that there are always multiple causes to a single behavior. And it is very hard to tease any one of them out of this ecology of the human mind. Okay? So I'm Dr. Hamilton, and thank you for staying with us in this presentation. I know, yeah, you have some questions. You may have some questions, maybe not related to this presentation. So yeah, our very good friend, Chin-Hei, is going to stay behind to answer your questions regarding this program. But if you have any other questions regarding this presentation, yeah, feel free to shoot me emails about it, and yeah, I can answer your questions.